This is your girl Thalia Sanchez from Bella Vida Inc. I am a tattoo artist who loves to paint and travel the world, and I love my dog Canela. Welcome to our podcast, Tattoo Nightmare, episode 14. And for today's episode, we do have a tattoo artist, and his name is Happy, who will be sharing their worst nightmares with all of us chismosas and chismosos. So please welcome and introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Happy Buena. I'm from Sacred Gallery Tattoo. I opened up my shop May 16th of 2018, along with my son Michael. And yes, thank you for having me here.
Oh, likewise. Thank you for coming through. And 2018, that's almost 7 years, right? Like, damn,
Yes.
congratulations. That's a big deal because not a lot of people make it but don't know how to keep it, you know? I do want to also introduce you guys to our mugs of the day. I have Chucky, good guys, and he has alien alien clowns, if you guys know who they are. So we're gonna cheers together because we're gonna go through this rabbit hole together with our traumas, our nightmares, and stuff. So we don't know who we're gonna face. I already chose my bread, which is a bolillo, and he already had a 5 minute start, a 5 head start. He chose his. You could choose any except the first row because these are all fake. This one's just real. So, Happy,
Yes.
take us to this rabbit hole and let us know who you had to face. Did you had to face Michael Myers, It the Clown, Scream, Ghostface, whatever his name is, or all of them above together at once?
Well, it's definitely been a journey, in tattooing.
Yes.
Since I started tattooing 30 years ago, everything has changed.
That's so true.
The industry now is going through the best times in technology.
Yeah.
In the worst times, with so many of the artists that are passing away and stuff.
Yeah. I didn't even think about that. You're correct.
There's a new way of doing things, where the artists are now taking care of themselves and teaching each other
Like sharing
how to go
knowledge
about
and stuff.
sharing knowledge, and just kind of shows shows that really put everything in the forefront, the things that other artists don't want to talk about.
Yes, 100%.
Yes, my story, I cannot talk about like my journey without talking about how I got here.
Yes.
From the beginning, from coming from a big city, in
Yes.
Guadalajara, Jalisco. That's where I'm from. And
From Mexico, right?
yeah, my mom's from there. My dad's from Sonora.
Wow.
The whole journey from when I was small, they brought us over here.
How old were you?
I was like 8 years old
Yeah.
when they brought us here. It was 7 of us. The whole trajectory through the border, and the suffering, the crossing, and almost losing our lives and getting kidnapped.
Wow.
Finally coming to a country where you really didn't fit in.
Wow, so you already started with a struggle, a
Yeah.
nightmare that you didn't even know you were going to
Yeah.
go through because you were such a young kid and you were just kind of like, oh, here you
Yeah.
go.
We're-
Ghost face right now. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
so
well.
they decided to come here, to get a better life, for us so we can go to school. When we got here, we're faced with the reality that our own family, our own people that were supposed to take care of us,
Yes.
were the ones that will humiliate us,
Yeah. The
and,
little small
because of the language,
comments.
because of the culture back in those days.
Yeah.
We started in an all-black neighborhood in South Central. That was when it was all black. Now it's a lot of Hispanics. They were mostly Mexicans. Later on, a lot of Guatemalans, a lot of Salvadorans started coming. But it was a struggle just living there. In the hood. We're like the third Mexican family that lived there.
Wow.
So
and back in the
yeah.
day, it was a lot of gang violence too. Like
yes, the whole
a survival mode you were at.
yeah, survival mode with your own people,
Yeah.
because the Chicanismo or the Mexican brown pride back in those
Oh,
days.
yes, yes.
It
I
wasn't
do
like
remember.
nothing like right now,
Yes,
Like
it
right
calmed
now
down a
is
lot.
so much culture, so much, love for a race and everything.
Mhm.
Back then you were stuck in between, the American society, trying to fit in,
Yes.
and then trying to fit in with the Mexicans that were born here.
That's true. You're in
Where it was
between.
racism on
Yeah.
both sides, you know.
Wow. You know, I will say I understand a little bit of what you go through. I could only imagine though. Just because when I go to Mexico, I'm not Mexican enough. But when I come here in America, I'm not American enough. So you're stuck in this limbo where you don't know what you are.
Yeah.
But yours is like the opposite in a way where you're from Mexico, but you're coming here, but here you'll look like super Latino, but over there you're like they think like, oh, you already are from over there, you live there already, you're better than the Latinos over here, so they kind of categorize you, and you're like, what? I'm still Latino, you know, like, so you're like trying to learn this whole new culture, but still be attached to your roots, and it's just so conflicting, you know. We don't even know how to. I don't even know what we are, you know.
Yes, you know, like even back in the days, everything was mystery. You know, even like Dia de los Muertos wasn't really a big holiday. You know, the whole Mexican culture is having a rebirth. You know, it's getting its credits. You know, from 100%. Culture. The tattoo culture has been here for thousands of years.
Yeah.
You know, and
wow.
When I started tattooing, it was, you know, because of my cousins. You know, my mis tíos,
oh, they knew a little bit of tattooing.
Well, they were all involved in like different neighborhoods. You know,
gotcha.
my mom had a whole family. They were all from different gangs, you know, my cousins and my brothers and sisters.
How many brothers and sisters did you have?
9 brothers and sisters.
Damn. 9, you guys.
Yeah.
9.
So I'm the third one.
Third oldest? Third youngest?
The third oldest, yeah.
Wow.
So, you know, like
the middle child.
Yeah, so with all these things that were going on in my life, you know, to protect myself, you know, from like other neighborhoods, you know, other Crips and Bloods, and you know, South Central was crazy because you know, back in those days, there wasn't too many like cholos, you know, like Mexican gang members, but there was a lot of Crips and a lot of Bloods that you really had to, you know, learn how to navigate around the neighborhood.
Damn, you couldn't even walk the streets like carefully. It's like you're always walking on eggshells constantly.
Yeah. So eventually, you know, I started like tattooing at 10 years old. You know, so I was tattooing kids in the neighborhood, tattooing my cousins, tattooing all the little homies. In school, you know, like we had a small little shop kind of that we made up as kids. We were probably like 11 years old, tattooing kids on top of the roof. And
you're like, I
we were
got
just
the
doing
whole
teardrops and dots and you know, just, you know, messing people's lives. Yeah. Yeah, my mom, you know, she kicked my butt for everything, you know, for like for anything that had to do with tattooing. You know, the first time I tattooed myself, like every time she saw it, she kicked my butt, you know. Like,
damn.
So it was that too, you know, like the family stigma, you know, and the Catholic, you know, religion at that time, you know.
Yes, like it's a demonio.
So we were like stuck in between, you know, trying to be. I always knew I wanted to be a tattoo artist, though, you know.
Okay, you were just playing around with it, seeing where.
No, actually, when I was tattooing with a homemade machine, I tattooed for years with a homemade machine. When I was like maybe like 13, 14, 16, 17 years old.
Really young.
Yeah, and I started with my wife bought me my first machine, actually, my first professional machine.
Oh.
Yeah, we had already like 3 kids, and I needed something to do, you know.
Yeah. So.
And really didn't have no life.
You were just tattooing, just took over.
Yeah.
And did that help you out to get out of the streets as well? Like, what was that one nightmare that you were like, you know what, I have to focus more on tattooing?
Well, you know, back in those days, tattoo shops were just as crazy as the streets.
Yeah.
You know, you were walking around with a gun inside. You know, like the first shop that I worked at. It was called Boy Scout Tattoos. Mm-hmm. I started off in Crenshaw in Lamert.
Oh yes.
And the shop was called Boy Scout Tattoos, and it was owned by a young black kid. His name was Boy Scout, so they named the shop
after him.
Yeah. So that's the first time I experienced a murder. You know, like next to the shop. You
Oh,
know, a
and that
guy.
was your first shop.
The first shop I worked at. You know, like I went outside to, you know, was talking to a friend that had
Yeah.
a studio on top of the shop,
Mhm.
and they used to record, you know, hip hop like music, and we went across the street to a hamburger stand,
Yeah.
and when we were coming back, he went upstairs, and I guess he caught the robbers tying his friends, and when he went in, they got into a shootout.
Yeah. Oh my
And nobody there
god.
died. The guy that passed away was the robbers shot the guy next door. That was it was like a pager shop next
Yeah.
door.
Yeah. Oh. Okay.
Imagine it
Okay.
was a pager shop. Imagine how long
Oh.
I was, you know.
Damn. I know we
So
don't have pagers no
yeah, the
more.
guy came out and with his gun, and the robbers shot him, and he got
Damn.
killed. I went inside the
Totally.
shop. I was maybe like my first shop. I was like maybe 21.
Oh wow.
So I go in and I put on my gloves. And I was already seasoned from the streets, you know. So I was
Yeah.
like, it was just another shootout for me, you know.
Yeah. It was so normal.
Yeah.
Like you
So
kind
I'm
of
putting
went
on
through
my
your day.
gloves and I'm telling the customers to sit down. Want to tattoo. I want to tattoo you right now.
Wow.
It's like, nah.
And were they
it's like,
okay?
I'm out of here.
Oh.
I'm gone.
Yeah. Damn.
So when the shooting was going on,
Mhm.
running around the whole shop, like closing the doors and everything. So I'm thinking like it's just as crazy as the streets, you know.
Yeah.
So I still had like one foot in the gang and one foot in the
Mm.
professional tattoo world, you know.
Got it. And what pushed you to move forward and stuff?
Well, there was a lot of things that happened, you know. Like
Yeah.
I was still tattooing homeboys,
Mhm.
you know, from my neighborhood.
Okay.
And the day that I tattooed them, I was living in Compton, and I had a big apartment. And one of the rooms, I had it hooked up like a tattoo shop, you know, like a little studio.
Yeah.
So I tattooed those guys, and when they were leaving, I guess, you know, I don't know if they said something to someone. So, you know, like someone shot up my house.
Oh.
So my son was inside, you know, my youngest son.
Yes.
My other two kids, Mikey and my daughter, they have gone to church. So they really, well, they have gone through a lot, you know, stuff like that that had to do with the gang and stuff, you know, and I knew that their life was in danger.
Yeah.
So from that day on, I made a U-turn and they went back.
Oh wow.
But I needed a guide, you know,
Yeah.
in my life. So, you know, I gave my life to the art and I gave my life to the Lord, you know.
Wow. Yeah, because you were just thrown in the wolves.
Yes.
Like, hey, here it is, a whole new world.
I mean, even when I got out from the streets and into tattoo world, like I figured tattooing saved my life, you know.
Yeah. Wow.
But it was just as dangerous, you know. Like, you know, a lot of people were dying because of the heroin addiction, you know, and stuff like that.
All
The same thing that we're complaining about and tattooing, you know, we talk about nowadays. If you see articles from the 1800s, they're talking about the exact same thing.
Oh,
you know what I
wow.
mean? So even though tattooing came from the dark, you know, from, you know, the roots of tattooing
Or dangerous.
you
We're,
know,
we're first dangerous.
people on the edge, you know, that,
Yeah.
but now it's gone towards the light, you know,
Yeah.
where everything's gotten so high tech, you know.
Like you've seen the growth, especially from how many years do you have?
30 years.
30 years. So, wow, you saw it from where it was so super gang violence and like everybody was fighting to you made it. You saw how it was growing and flourishing and making it more about the art versus like
when I worked in a Avalon swap meet and like the Slauson swap meet. That was a time when tattooing was barely going into towards the hood, you know. Like, towards like the South Central area.
Okay,
like,
got it.
Maybe like the West LA area.
Wow.
You know, it was mostly like downtown Hollywood or Venice, Long Beach. You know, like
yes.
maybe Gardena, maybe like Lancaster.
Wow.
But all the shops were like spread it out. You know, like, and it has skipped the whole South Central area.
Wow. I see where you were like it's like the shops when you're young. It was also dangerous because they were in different hoods. You had to be careful on like.
Well, other shops were, you know, like they wouldn't give you a license or like a zoning area where it was a nice neighborhood, you know.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. It's so crazy to me because like I didn't experience the whole gang violence as much as how you're saying it or what you gone through. So like we kind of got more the benefits
Yeah.
of like the fruits of your labors in a sense,
Hmm.
where you had to deal with the whole gang violence and like making it more mainstream and the process of it from the start, and
Well,
I think that's
well,
crazy.
like the in the Chicano culture, they only talk about the gang culture,
Yeah.
but they forget about the other art students, and
Yeah.
people in the military, and even like the Mexican um, circuses,
Yes. Oh,
like
yeah, yeah,
our
yeah.
people has been tattooing professionally in both rustic,
Yeah.
the whole fine line
Yes.
movement, from the
Mm.
West Coast. It's all raza,
Yeah.
all the graffiti movement in the West Coast. It's all raza, But like
Mm.
every else around the
Yeah.
United States, it's different cultures.
Wow.
So the raza definitely like revolutionized realism around the world.
Yeah.
We're finally getting that credit.
Yeah. You're right. I do see that way more. Like we're getting out of that, like, oh, tattoos are gang violence, the Latinos are doing it,
Yeah.
we're more of like showing our actual roots, which is,
Hmm.
Day of the Dead, not only our traditions but our artistic side too. We're finally able to express ourselves more, and tattooing has helped that a lot, especially because there's like a Chicano style that a lot of people are well known for it being gang violence, but it's like, no, it's actually an expression of what people have been going through all those years during that gang violence
Yeah.
too. But it's like a way of like self-expression, and people can relate to and stuff, and it's beautiful too as well, what people can create and stuff. Especially as Latinos, we're very creative and diverse, I would say. When you started your own shop, was that a whole new transition, especially from you going to different shops and stuff? Like, what did you learn from all of that?
Well, from every shop I ever worked at, I've always gave it 100%. And I was um, worked at it like if it was my shop.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got my shop, I was like, everything I've learned from other shops, I
Mm-hmm.
can apply it to my shop.
Yeah.
Like I'm from the streets. I don't know nothing about like technology.
Yeah.
I don't know nothing about this and that. But I had to teach myself,
Yes.
and I had to like as an older artist, I had to
Mm-hmm.
kind of like reinvent myself,
Wow.
and and catch up with the young generation,
Yeah.
and learn from them too.
Yeah. I love that you said that you had to learn from them as well. Because a lot of people that, been in this industry for 20 plus years, like yourself, tend to just get stuck in that one, the headspace, and they don't like open their eyes to like, oh shit, it's evolving. Tattooing is not how it used to be, where it was more gang violent. You had to, walk around like eggshells, walk on eggshells.
Yeah,
Now it's more like welcoming more, where it's like, oh, this is the way we do things, and you being more open to learning from youngsters as well. Like, I feel like we teach each other, like the old school teach the youngsters something, and the youngsters teach the old school something, where it's like, oh, look, this is what's in now, because every generation it changes,
yeah,
so I'm really glad to hear that, like, an old school like you is actually willing to learn from a youngster as well, especially since you have also kids that, became a tattoo artist as well. And
yeah,
I feel like you kind of like showed him a way of tattooing where he didn't have to go through so much as compared to what you went through, and I think that's amazing to hear that.
yeah. It's definitely a learning experience, for me. Like I'm never really, I'm never gonna really stop learning,
Yeah, that's
I'm forever
awesome.
a student. It's
Yeah.
like something so common in artists that are out there, like racing the bar and tattooing. I'm not saying I'm like the best tattoo artist, but I stay, active.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of old timers, a lot of people that have they were on fire, when they started,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like they're older now, and and like me, I'm trying to catch up with the
Yeah.
youngsters, like
Yeah, like the others are
because they're
stuck in their ways.
so talented, it's like another realm
Yeah.
right now.
Especially, I'm pretty sure you seen the equipment, like you unlearning what you were taught,
Yes.
and now you have to learn a whole new technique, a whole new machine, a whole new needle set. Like, Because when I started to tattoo, I started with a coil, so the whole loud machine, super heavy, a wire connecting it, versus now, like it's all wireless.
Right.
What was that hard for you to transition a bit?
Well, there's nothing new under the sun.
Mm.
The Raza's been doing the wireless thing, with the machines that had
Because
like
you
a
had a
little
homemade
button,
one.
and then some of them had a battery, or the
Oh,
battery went across
wow.
you right here, so then you could use like a watch, kind of like a battery
Yeah.
pack on the side.
That's so
So when the
crazy.
cops pass by, like you just went like that, and, like the cops just left.
He's
Or
showing us the
they,
ways, you guys.
they knock on the bars and you just keep going, after.
Oh my
But
god.
it's something
Yeah.
that was started like years ago. Like Franco did this. I don't know if you can see it.
The Jesus?
The Jesus on my neck, with a single needle, like years ago,
Needles. Single
And
needles, no joke. And on the
he
neck?
used to use like a coil machine, like with different artists that I worked with, back in those days, they will preach the tattoo gospel, so to say, like baby in the skin, doing different strokes, sweeping
Okay.
motions, with, sort of like the tattooing went a whole circle to like the Chicano style, kind of like single needle work, where the stippling now becomes the norm, and,
Yeah.
and tattooing like the professional Bowery Pike roots connected with the Chicano roots, and they revolutionize realism and neo-traditional.
Wow.
And
You're
even,
like giving
and
us a
even new
whole.
school, so there's a lot of like a deeper connection.
Yeah.
I mean, it happened all over the world, like the professional tattoo culture and the prison culture getting together.
Yeah.
The whole black and gray movement is that's what it is. It's a movement, like worldwide.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know I met your son,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a tattoo artist now. Was that difficult for you to teach him how to tattoo? Or was it like super smooth and like he was like soaking everything in?
Well, his like me myself, I didn't have a formal apprenticeship.
Mm-hmm.
I could call out my teachers, like R.V. Veros,
Mm-hmm.
Or like a few other artists that I worked with in the past, at like Highland Park when I worked there, Spider, Casper, Pine, Alan. I can mention artists, it would sound like I'm dropping names or whatever.
No.
But it was like we didn't have nothing back then, all that we had was each other,
Yeah.
There was no seminars, there was no Google.
Yeah, that's so true.
There was no like like if you did an event, you can put it on social media and just expect everybody to show up,
Yeah.
So like the way I was taught, was like just working,
Yeah.
on the hands, training, I
Word
guess.
of mouth and.
The old school, way of teaching, is you had to earn it, you had to kind of like it's a rite of passage kind of thing, you can't just start tattooing and that's it. And nowadays it's kind of people are kind of losing that, like learning about the forefathers, people that came before you,
Got it.
who laid the foundation,
Like the history of it and everything.
or just being interested in being involved in like art shows and like different events, the community, in tattooing, or helping or putting work for tattooing, you know. So teaching him was kind of easy in the beginning, but then he's my son, so it was hard for me to tell him what to do and stuff.
Yeah.
So I sent him other places. He went to Mexico City.
You sent him back to your roots.
Yes, he had to
That's
go
beautiful.
over there and spend a couple of weeks over there with the F Tatuajes.
Yeah.
He went up to the mountains in Xochimilco and he did a sweat lodge. Ya cuando estaban con los canales allá empezó también a pintar. Y cuando ya vino de allá del DF, pues ya vino pintando en acuarela, pintando como neo-tradicional, como diferentes estilos.
Ajá, él agarró otros estilos.
Otros estilos. Ajá. Entonces ya lo que hizo es quedarse 2 semanas en la casa de otro tatuador donde podían experimentar toda la cultura de México.
Sí.
Entonces le pregunté, digo, so how was it? You know,
Yeah.
Was it cool? It's like, oh, Dad, the food was really hot. You
Oh,
know,
spicy.
but I ate it. I didn't say nothing like you told me. You know, like I just ate it, but man, it was so hot. You know,
Yeah.
and I didn't understand a word they were saying.
Yeah.
I go, yeah, but it was cool, right? Yeah, because you know, in Mexico some of them speak English, you know.
Yeah. Oh, sí, sí, sí.
Sí, muchos hablan español, inglés y español, igual que aquí. So, like, sí le gustó mucho, pero ya después de ahí lo mandé con otro maestro de allá en
Wow, that's amazing.
Uno de mis aprendices se llama Ocean. También lo mandé para allá y estuvo también aprendiendo de él. Ya cuando llegó, ya llegó todo tatuado de acá de la panza. Llegó pues también dibujando en charco, dibujando en diferentes estilos.
¿Le dices unos ganchazos?
Sí.
Cuando vino para atrás tatuado.
Sí, para que se set in the ink, you know.
Because you know how they have to bless it.
Yeah, I had to set it in, you know. I was like, man, I don't even have my panza tattooed, you know.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't easy because I was harder on him than anybody else, you know. Like, I had to.
Yeah.
Because I wanted him to be good.
Yes.
So I had him draw a lot and draw.
I'm pretty sure en el principio pensaba, me estás maltratando, porque me estás regañando, me quieres controlar. And then afterwards they learn like, oh wow, it's like the Karate Kid. Right. You know, he keeps putting on like the jacket and he's like, why am I doing this? And then after he sees it's reflex. It's you just naturally grab it because it's a repetition. And people think like, oh, you were born like that. It's like, no, it's a lot of hours we put in, you know.
so every tattoo shop that he worked at, like I kind of just threw him in there, you know.
Yeah.
Like, with all of my other tattoo artist friends, and they took him under their wing.
Yeah.
You know, and like different art shows that I would be in. Yeah. And like I would speak for him, you know, like, hey man, why don't you have my son go and be in there, you know?
Aww.
So the one for tatuaje that Freddy Negrete, curated. It was here in LA for the first one.
Yeah. That's so beautiful because like you opened so many doors from you like jumping around from different shops, you know, and just making whatever you can from whatever you got, you know. How many shops have you been?
Well, I was after when I worked at the swap meet.
Yeah.
I worked in my first real shop. It was called Westside Tattoo, and it was over there in West LA. That's the shop where like I really started like going to conventions. I really started like that's when I tell you I went to the ink slingers.
That's so amazing just hearing your journey because everything was really starting.
Yeah.
Like everything was so new to you, but everything was fresh in the tattoo industry too. Like everybody, it was more about culture, how you said, more about people.
Well, when I first started, there weren't really that many Mexicans, you know, or many like Chicanos.
So los que estaban
you know,
unidos,
so the ones that were there, estábamos abriendo la puerta para los que iban a venir después.
Wow.
Pero no sabíamos que muchas generaciones antes que nosotros, ya habían visto tatuadores también mexicanos o chicanos.
That's awesome.
Pero la historia del chicano o del mexicano en Estados Unidos fue escondida o borrada. Entonces, la deshistorización the historization of our people has been going on since like the conquest, you know, since you know, and you can go all the way back to like the tilines, the pachucos and all that. But not just the pachucos, but the non-gay members, like the people in the military, you know, the raza that died in every war for like, you know, for the U.S. or for Mexico. It was a lot of tattoo artists within them, you know, because they went to another country and they took all the cultura with them. So the whole graffiti and, you know, the Los Angeles and the tatuaje culture, you know, the single needle, black and gray. It's nothing new, you know. It's been going around the world for years and years, you know.
Yes. I personally love this history lesson that you're not only giving me, but everybody out here from your own experiences as well that you witnessed and you saw everything like unfold what it is right now. Um, and it's crazy what you're mentioning, and I do agree with you. Like, they try to push us back where we kind of came from in a sense, and now that we're coming back to this land more and like spreading more, like we're here to stay, and we're letting them know like, no, these are our roots, like this is what we've been doing, and we're now expressing it more, and I feel like a lot of Latinos like feel that, and how you said we're getting our credit now that was in a sense taken from us or not rewarded or shown, and that's why we're so proud of where we come from or what we do now, because we've been doing it, this is something normal for us in a sense, and it's beautiful knowing that you saw all of that, and you're in a sense like reminding me again too, like why I'm doing all of this, what is my purpose for this as well, and like helping one another was one of them, and I see that you've been doing that, especially from like you jumping from so many different shops, like how many shops have you gone through already, like, or which one have you with that recently that you think of that you had to deal with another nightmare.
Uh, I worked in a lot of different shops. Some of them I didn't last that long. I was just there for like, one day. Some just hours.
Yeah.
Walked in
Oh,
there and
hours.
walked out.
Less than a day. Yeah.
It's like, there was shops where, you know, didn't have no respect for tattooing or didn't have respect for the culture.
Oh.
Or if there wasn't drawing or painting, like I didn't want to be there. Like I come
Wow.
from a school, like uh, like my schooling is not like a traditional tattooing apprenticeship. I started from juvenile hall. Like drawing envelopes and drawing, for
Damn.
people, and and like throughout my whole career, I was, you know, tattooing in the streets, in and out of jail, until I found tattooing. Tattooing definitely had like that criminal element, you know. You know, it's still a cool thing, but
Mhm.
I think that tattooing has gone so far that it's in another realm right now,
Yeah.
as far as like quality and stuff.
Yes.
So we really have to step it up, like
Yeah.
as artists,
100%.
especially as like older artists, like
Mhm.
to be able to learn from the new generation. And
Yeah.
it's a big gap, between the old generation and the young generation,
Yeah.
and we try to build that bridge, to
Kind of
pass
help
the
it.
baton kind of to
Yeah.
the next generation. So you know, you gotta be the change that you want to see.
That's true.
If you want to see tattooing in a better light, you just do your part.
Yeah. You did that. You definitely did that from just hearing a little bit of what you went through from, jumping from different locations and stuff in the tattoos shops, from Crenshaw, like Long Beach, I believe, like
Yeah. So I started off in the hood in South Central, and right away, my wife bought me my first machine and
mhm.
with some rickety needles, and from there, I started like I thought I was a professional,
Yeah.
until I went to a shop and I found out I needed a lot
A
to
lot of
learn,
work on.
So like my whole journey took me to Venice Beach,
Oh wow.
where me and my friend Ray, I had a little car and we used to go everywhere, just try to look for a job.
Yeah.
So I landed in the shop in LA Tattoo in Venice
Mhm.
with Danny Weil, Mike Irondine, and Case.
Wow.
I mean, at those times, still, to this day, those guys are like my teachers,
Yeah.
my mentors.
That's
You know,
awesome.
Case passed away a few years back,
Oh wow.
but Mike Arendine and Danny Weil, those are the one people, the two
Yeah.
artists that I know I looked up to. When I went to Hollywood, it was like a whole different environment for me. Like uh, people think it's just like rock stars walking in there
Oh
every
yeah.
day. You know, like you're just gonna be tattooing like Robert De Niro. Or,
Oh,
like
okay.
it's nothing like that. You know,
Like the
you're
estrellas and stuff.
tattooing like from the richest to the poorest. You know, like from
Wow.
the wild to the mild. You know,
Yeah. You were getting
yeah,
all sorts of people.
yeah. So like you can say like it was gonna be a good day. Sometimes it was a bad day. You know, because
Yeah.
of the area around there. You know, and everything.
Yeah. It was right in between that line of
Yeah.
different kinds of people.
Right in that era, yeah, in
Mhm.
that time frame of, you know, it was
Yeah,
like it was a
and-
transition
Mhm.
between the like the old school like artistic, you know, hood
Yeah.
style into like the more like you know, like tattooing a regular person, a regular people, you know, like
Wow.
the people that really have money, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you know I was tattooing in the hood for a long time, and like they didn't want to pay. You
Yeah.
know? I was tattooing sometimes
Like
for free,
practice.
or like for trading for stuff, and
Yeah.
you know, like
Wow. Was that transition also like when you were like I made it, you know, like I'm going somewhere with this.
I remember like not like exact same the time or when someone gave me money for it,
Yeah.
but you know when I was tattooing or with a homemade machine, I was already getting paid for it.
Oh
So
wow.
like I felt like as soon as I started tattooing, like you know I was already getting rewarded. You know, I never
Yeah.
really like yeah, I tattooed for free for a while until I kind of learned how to
The
tattoo.
techniques and everything.
You know,
So you were self-taught pretty much.
yes,
From the
but I
beginning,
learned
and
so
then
much through like because you know back then everything was so well guarded.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like hush hush, don't
yes.
share anything.
And then like the equipment was so protected. You know, like it wasn't really like today where you could just order you know
Yeah.
quality needles you know online.
We could just
and-
order online. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. How would you get your equipment?
You know, the first shop I worked at, the guy didn't want to teach me anything, so I had to learn, you know, by
Wow.
cleaning his station all the time.
And that's how
And I'm
apprenticeships
watching-
happen.
I'm watching it, and I'm ordering all my stuff behind his back. So
You have to do what you gotta do.
So I'm making needles at night, you know,
Wow.
at my house.
Mhm.
You know, so before you know it, I'm mixing my own ink, I'm making my own needles, I'm
Wow.
fixing my own machines.
Damn, you
You
got
know,
creative, man.
Well, you have to because
Yeah.
you know the first thing I wanted to do is get more into the technical side.
Yeah.
Because the coil machine was a mystery to me, you know,
Yes.
and it still is
It,
to
it's
many people, you know.
Yeah, it's so amazing hearing all of this because like I feel like I was like in the middle of the transition where I
Right.
got a little taste of the
Right.
old school ways where it was very hush hush. You had to get the apprenticeship old school ways versus seeing it now like and the transition of like getting an iPad, not stenciling it anymore with just like paper, pen, and the tracing paper. You know, where your arm would get already tired and stuff.
Well, you know, it's preferences, you know. It's the same thing we're arguing about or
Mhm.
talking about. If you see like articles of like the 1800s, you know, from like magazines and stuff,
Yeah.
you'll see like the newest, hottest trend of tattooing, you know, stuff like that, and then you
Yeah.
hear like bad things too, like you know, people that are messing up their whole career, their whole lives, and everything.
That's
Even
so
back
true.
then, they were arguing about the same thing,
Wow.
the same things that we arguing about
Arguing
now.
now.
You know,
Yeah, like who's right, who's wrong?
Yeah.
What's the best way, the
is-
better way?
are you loyal to the coil, or
Yeah.
like are you like a rotary guy?
Yeah.
You know, the rotary was patented like 20 days before the coil. You know, but the coil just got more popular, more.
Like
Yeah.
more mainstream.
Yeah, because the rotary machine barely evolved like in the last 10 years.
Yeah. Like it kind of put it on a pause because the coils were.
Well, you
up
know
and
when
running.
I used to talk about the rotary machine with Franco back in the day when he first started tattooing. When we first started tattooing, all of us, you know, and he used to talk about it, you know, because he was running a Swatch drive, and I guess the Dragonfly was one of the popular ones back then, you know.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but you know, if you go into the museums and you see like rotaries from back in the day,
Yeah.
they just posted a picture of Sutherland McDonald's that had a from England
Yeah.
from I think it was 1885. He had
Oh.
a pen already, you know. Yeah, so
Wow.
it's nothing new under the
Yeah.
sun.
That's crazy. That's crazy to me. Like when you start digging up more of the history and start looking at where it's kind of like started, it's the things we have now. They had it before. It's just more mainstream now.
Well, it's just history rewriting itself.
Oh yeah, history writing
Yeah,
itself.
and you're giving credit to the people that deserves that credit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Damn, that's so crazy. I'm still mind blown because like the way you had to get your equipment, you know, like how hard that was because there wasn't that many tattoo places to even buy equipment too because it was so fresh compared to now. There's so many brands of not only inks, needles, machines that you're overwhelmed like what's the best. But back then it's like you had to get whatever you get and make the best out of it, make
Yeah.
it work and get really creative. Now I feel like people, they are creative with their artistic side where they don't have to worry about like the nightmares of like, oh shit, I don't have a machine
Well,
or I
it's a
ran out of
good thing and a
needles.
bad thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. So it's so crazy seeing that, you know, from your perspective to now where it's like I didn't have to struggle about that. You know, there's machines, there are needles. You just had to kind of think which one was best for you. Back then, it's like, well, this is what we have. How can you get it? It's like, oh, I don't know.
Well, yeah,
I gotta
like
figure
when I
that
was
out.
telling you about Franco, like he used to talk about like the back then they had a pen
Yes.
of to do makeup,
Yes.
and there was a few artists that would use that to
Tattoo.
to tattoo, but it had like a 2.5 throw, like
very,
a motor,
yeah.
very soft, very
Mhm.
light, so like the whole cartridge thing, they used to send you a cartridge where you put it together. The needle wasn't even inside. You had to put it together and then, stick it inside the machine
Yes.
and tattoo with it.
Yeah.
So that's the things that evolved, like what we see now, with the cartridge and
Yeah.
the machine,
Yeah.
being like a rotary,
Mhm.
with the pancake motor inside,
Damn.
So
That's crazy.
it's a good and a bad thing,
Yeah.
Like some people think because you use a coil that you don't do good work,
Yeah.
It's
like-
more coil machines in the world
Yeah.
than rotaries.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. It's preference at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no right or wrong way, and I'm so glad to hear from someone like had to go through the whole experience from starting with coils and like seeing everything grow and what now it is with more technology. Like, you're still open minded to it, and I feel like that's what kept you always growing and going and happy, know,
Yeah.
because a lot of people stay grumpy because they wanted it to stay the way it was, or even the new schooler people, they're like, no, this is the only way, and they don't appreciate the process of the tattoo industry and how it grew and stuff, because they just kind of, it's like we're more spoiled, and they're just like, no, just give it to me. It's like, yes, I want to give it to you, but just appreciate what you have in a sense, and I feel like that's what a lot of the old school people are trying to like put out there. It's like, hey, like, I understand, like, you got it easier now and everything, and it's not to bash that, but it's more of like, appreciate what you have now, like, it can be a struggle. Right now it's mainstream, but it could have been a struggle, just enjoy it. But a lot of people are like, I just want to learn, I just want to do it already, but it's like a process,
Yeah.
and it's man, I'm just so blown away right now from knowing what you've gone through and like what I see now and stuff, and youngsters trying to become a tattoo artist. Like, I could see a huge difference,
Yeah.
but you're always willing to open, be like, learn from them as well. And I feel like you're on the right path of like always learning, and what you said, and I think that's the key in any industry. You always have to just keep learning from everybody around you, even if they had 1 year of tattooing versus 30 years of tattooing. Like, you learn from everybody. But that is very beautiful.
Yeah.
To end this nightmare on a really good note, because we went through different time lapses right now, different times though. I do have a question for you, Happy. If you had to go through all over everything again, what would you tell your younger self?
That's a tough
Yeah.
one. Like, if I knew what I knew now, I would definitely have I would definitely have more respect, for the people that lay the
The
foundation.
foundation.
Back
Mm.
then I was a wild child, so like I didn't have no respect for a lot of people, for myself, for people in the street, because I was just so full of anger, like
Mm.
of the racism that I experienced in tattooing, and the exclusion, and the
Yeah.
tattoo culture where I really had to like fight, to have a place in tattooing, to just be able
Mm.
to tattoo in a professional setting, because it was such a cutthroat business,
Industry.
where they brought the jail kind of politics out into the, you know,
Oh.
and to me, like I didn't want none of that stuff.
Yeah.
I was already getting out of the streets and from the gangs and stuff, and
Yeah.
wanting to have a change in my life, to better myself, as a person.
Yes.
Uh, for that, it took a whole transformation. So,
Mm.
like, if I would tell myself just to have more respect for the culture,
Got it.
for the once the laid the foundation.
Got it.
Yeah.
You know what? I do agree with you. Like when you start finding more, like right now, like today, like you blow my mind a lot. Sometimes I'm a little speechless because I'm just like, holy shit. Because just seeing the two worlds, it's the same industry but different worlds, you know? So seeing all of that, like you do appreciate it. It's like, damn, like my ancestors pretty much like went through a whole different journey in fighting to get this where we're at now, which is we're getting the fruits of their labors in a sense, you know. And I totally understand why sometimes like old school people feel like, just respect it, just appreciate the people who were in the past that laid it for you,
Yeah.
and sometimes I could see where the youngsters are fighting where it's like, oh, I don't have to give respect to anybody and stuff like that. But I feel like it's always a miscommunication. It's not like you guys are demanding like respect us or anything. It's more of like appreciate what you have. It wasn't just like laid like this. Because when you do research and like how everything was made, it does bring a different side or light to it where you're like, whoa, like I have to appreciate I didn't have to go through that whole like situation of trying to figure out how to get the needles, like fighting for my life kind of thing, like being in survival mode, walking on eggshells kind of thing, We went through different struggles, but it's a whole different world you were at when tattooing started
Yeah.
versus now, and it's just 30 years, It is a lot. But imagine in the next 30 years, like how we're gonna be like, oh, well, we were tattooing with battery, and I don't know, maybe machines will take over, So you do have to appreciate everything and understand how everything's made, and you appreciate things more that way.
Yeah.
And give respect in that way where it's like, oh shit, like I understand people have gone through it, and I'm happy that I'm able to do this now, and it's not shunned or have to have a gun on the side of my thigh.
Tattooing is beautiful though.
Yeah.
Like I've been going around the country visiting museums, tattoo museums, and and different artists and stuff, and learning from them. The people now that are in tattooing, they're documenting, what's going on and what happened before. It started, with like Shawnee, Kate, and like maybe Rollo, like from up north, and now the youngsters, the young generation, like yourself, are the new people that are documenting, the history of tattooing, what's going on right now.
It's like we're bringing it back to life where people won't forget.
Yes, and sometimes you think it's just a story, but it's like I said, it's a history lesson.
Yeah.
And eventually all the stories start clicking together.
Yeah.
So
it's like I'm like taken back.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if you catch me, but sometimes I'm like I don't know what to say because it's like, whoa, like I can't relate because I didn't go through the specific scenarios that you went through that I'm at odd. Like I'm like, whoa, like this person's really gone through it and look where he's at. Like
I went through to the Daredevils in New York recently, and I went and took the Bowery. They give you like a tour around the Bowery, and they show the picture. they show you the picture of the tattoo shop back in the day,
Yes.
but they have everything so well documented, you
Yeah.
know, from since the 1800s.
Mm.
So
Like
to be able to
nostalgic.
experience, you know, the roots of tattooing in New York, it just put everything in perspective of all the stuff that I studied my whole life.
Yeah.
You know, I studied my tattooing my whole life, but I still learn new things
Yeah.
every time.
Damn.
You know.
I'm really proud of you because like from everything that you told us, I know there's a bunch more stories. Like you still are happy, you know, like you're not like it didn't bitter you, you know, and I see it, especially when you do the art shows and everything. I see your big smile, and I'm pretty sure with seeing your son being a tattoo artist and like you pass down the throne and everything, and you're still continuing to wanting to learn. I think that's a beautiful mindset because you're still wanting to contribute, you know, in one way or another, and now you're able to tell your story more. And I think that's amazing for someone like you, like that has gone through everything crazy. I mean, what
Yeah.
haven't you gone through, you know? You still are
I mean, that's
who you are.
that's the amazing thing in tattooing, you know, that and with artists too, you know, like even if your life is crumbling, you know, you still like gotta perform, you know.
Yeah.
Now with a lot of people with anxiety and like depression and stuff,
That's true.
you know, the new generation, you know, they have a breakup or someone dies in their family, and they crumble up and stop tattooing.
Yeah.
You know, they go into this self-destruction mode, you know, where you know, in tattooing now we're teaching the new generation a new way of teaching, you know, of taking care of yourself,
Yeah.
of going through self-preservation, you know, as an artist, because you are one day gonna not tattoo the same, you know, your eyes are gonna give out, your back's gonna give out, you know,
Yeah.
you're gonna get old, you know.
Yeah.
It's part of life.
Yeah. That's
But
so true.
but old timers, you know, now what we're doing is making a name for them so that when they get a little older, they can still make money, you know.
Yeah.
They can still survive with their paintings. They can still survive with small tattoos.
Yeah.
You know.
That's so true. It's crazy because we don't think about that.
Yeah.
You know, where it's so true.
So
Yeah.
the whole thing with the guys that are preserving the tattoo culture, they're teaching a new way, you know, like because of the Tattoo Heritage Project that I've been working with, and other artists around Los Angeles,
Yeah.
you know, that have been uniting artists. You know, that's years ago. That was taboo. You know, that was counterculture. You know, with tattooing
Yes.
because of the gatekeeping and
Yeah. It's the gate.
you know, and you know, it's a controversial subject
Yeah.
because you do need to earn it.
Yeah.
You know, but you do not need to get humiliated by it,
Yes.
because then you create a whole generation of bitter artists
Yes.
that are going to do that same thing to the other artists.
Yes. Damn, I'm gonna snap some.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then how do we expect to have a generation of creative people when we still have our old ways? You know.
Yeah.
Like,
Damn,
Yeah.
I love that. Like, I'm gonna snap some more because you're
I mean,
speaking amazing.
it's the truth, because I lived it. You know, I believe both sides
Yeah.
of the culture. You know, and even within our own culture, you know, the Mexican culture. You know,
Yes.
my parents, you know, my uncles, my aunts, you know, they never supported tattooing, you know, or because of the religion, you know, because of the way we were brought up, you know. We had to kind of be underdogs even within our own families.
Yeah.
You
Damn.
know, so like
Yes.
it's a double struggle, you know, with the artists. You know, nowadays they don't have to go through that, you know, because we can give them a better way, you know.
Yeah. You laid it easier for
Yeah.
people.
Before it
to
was
catch-
the opposite. It was like, no, I went through it, and you got to go through it.
Yeah. And
You know,
yeah.
it's
So true.
Yeah, it's a different way of there's different ways of seeing things, you know.
Yeah, I love that. That's amazing. Thank you, Happy, for being part of this tattoo nightmare and sharing your nightmares like with us. Like it's so shocking still, and I'm glad that you're able to speak what you've been through and share it to all these chismosas and chismosos out here. We all are, but this one was a really amazing one. Like learning the old school and the new school way, and like seeing how your mindset is amazing, you know. So cheers to our nightmares that you surpassed for sure from all these 30 years under your belt tattooing. um but damn, I'm still like, whoa, I'm soaking everything that you've been telling me and connecting everything, and I feel like I'm gonna be seeing things in a whole new perspective, you know, especially since seeing your perspective is like, wow, it's amazing, you know. But thank you guys for watching this episode with us and with Happy here. And see you guys in our next Tattoo Nightmare episode 15. Bye, guys.